Good evening and welcome to Beyond the Touchline with myself, Paul. We have Colin and Ryan. How are we, gentlemen?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm looking forward to talking some football from the weekend. And we're going to start off by talking about the Premier League before we work our way around the world because Colin wants to talk about some special things happening in the US. So we're going to start with Liverpool versus Tottenham. It was obviously at White Hart Lane, so we can say Tottenham versus Liverpool, Ryan.
Yeah, we can. Klopp's first game in charge. Well, not a really good start for him, but a good enough start for any Liverpool fans. He went out there with his normal style of play that he had at Dortmund. He made the players run. All that pressing that we know Klopp is well known for. I think once he gets that drilled into the Liverpool players and his philosophies put across, I think Liverpool should have a good season. I know go on.
I was just going to say, you said obviously not the best start, but they hadn't had a clean sheet in any of their 8 games before they visited White Hart Lane. So, I mean, when you look at that, Ryan, it's not a bad start. He's definitely shored them up.
It's true. It's something to work from, and I'm sure he'll have plenty of plans to move the football along at Liverpool.
Definitely. I mean, Colin, what were your thoughts? Obviously, they were playing Divock Origi up front with Daniel Sturridge injured again. I mean, he's like a sick note at the minute for them.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. I think if you want to get a good picture of what they look like or what I think that Liverpool squad is going to look like, the first 15, 20 minutes, that's a very good picture of, I think, what Klopp's vision is for the squad. I think my concern point would be does the squad have the fitness level to get to where they need to be to play his style? I think they've been fairly injury prone, to say the least, over the season. But I think that first block of time was really a great picture into what it would be. They battled. I think the clean sheet, like you said, is a good result for the start. That's obviously something that they hadn't been able to do. This was a better class of opponent, which Liverpool has crumbled against so far this season, which I think led to Rodgers' exit. So I think it was a good start on those fronts. Like I said, my big curiosity is does the squad have enough in it to play Klopp's style without getting itself hurt, sort of constantly?
I think what I would say is, if you remember back to the start of the season, we spoke about Liverpool and Liverpool's squad and the signing of Milner playing alongside Henderson. I think me and yourself, Colin, spoke about how they were such workhorses in there, and I think that is going to excite and it's going to fit what Jurgen Klopp wants. So I think them two in central midfield is going to be, throughout the season, a great partnership to definitely use as a base to build this this mentality of constant pressing and constant pace with.
Yeah, I think they are the right player. I think they're absolutely the right idea for what he's trying to do. I guess my broader concern would be given that the pushing and pressing, you're going to end up in situations where the defense is exposed. Is Skirtle necessarily the right guy to be having in the back, marshalling the back line for that? And then, is Sturridge going to have the fitness to be able to be up front to lead the line to attack, all season long? And I'm not necessarily sure about that.
I think one thing I do want to pick out is that no goalkeeper in the Premier League in 2015 has had more clean sheets than Simon Mignolet, which is a shock, Colin, a big shock in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. Although he very clearly, if you watching the game, bailed out Liverpool on a couple of occasions with some fairly big saves. I think he takes a fair beating. I think sort of in the press for being, not a Liverpool goaltender and not a featured Premier League type goalkeeper, but. I think he really is quite good, and they're going to be dependent on him for a while to keep playing the way he's playing. So hopefully he keeps it up. I mean, obviously, he's not going to be or it's going to be very difficult to be a number one at the international level for him to kind of take that next leap with Courtois in front of him. But I think he's good, and he's good. They're going to need to lean on him.
Yeah, definitely. Final point on this game, Colin, is that Tottenham are currently on the longest unbeaten run in the Premier League at the minute with 8 games. Since losing to Man United in the opening day, they've won 3, drew 5. Would you class that as successful, or would you class that as some struggling with only 3 victories in the 8?
Hard to tell. I think it's probably a little bit of a struggle. They had a bunch of guys, a bunch of their big guys. I think there was five of their routine starters were on the bench for this one. I think they've had something fairly similar in and out of that over the last couple of games, coming in and out of the international breaks. So I don't think it's necessarily something I would get hung up on being worried, because September and October are fraught with international breaks here. So obviously a team of their caliber has a lot of internationals on it. So you're going to have some pretty heavy rotation. So I'd say it's probably not terribly unsuccessful that they've managed to kind of run unbeaten into this. It'll be more telling if they keep an unbeaten run and we're sitting in December and it's very draw heavy, then I'd start to be concerned.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to the Chelsea 2, Aston Villa 0. It really confuses me, Aston Villa, because they're not a bad side. They've got some really decent players. They've got they've not totally changed, but they've changed quite a lot in terms of the players they've brought in. Losing Benteke, bringing in Justeb, then they've obviously brought in the likes of Sinclair, for example. Do you know what? I don't mind Aston Villa, and yet I'm so confused about why they just seem to look so bad, Colin. I think is the best way to say it. Why do they look so bad?
I'm not sure either, right? By all accounts, they shouldn't be as bad as they are. I think I was watching, there was an interesting, note. I think it was Sherwood's lost the last 12 league games or something like that. I mean, it's some absurd, or winless in his last 12. I think it was, some absurd sort of statistic like that they were talking about. So, in league form, that, obviously his cup form was great last year, and he snuck around just a little bit of what he needed to, but that ability to win is missing at Aston Villa. And at least on the American commentary this weekend, they were talking a lot about how, the 40-point numbers being thrown around a lot already at Villa Park, that's the goal for the season, is get to 40 and hang on for all they're worth. Obviously, results like this are certainly not going to help it. To me, I think Sherwood's probably getting closer to running out of time. That the pride of Villa isn't, and the ownership and the fan base isn't gonna want to hang around for another gruesome relegation battle, especially like you said, with the squad that they have, where they probably shouldn't be this deep into a relegation fight, especially at this point in the season. So I suspect we'll see him under pressure, especially going into December. My guess is he'll get through November, and if things haven't looked like they're starting to turn, could be running down that road. I don't think Chelsea looked particularly great in this game. To me, this was a side, no matter how bad Chelsea is, they should always beat. I thought the interesting part was Mourinho's decision to bench Hazard, because he was, over his lack of defensive work, or needing to work on his defensive work rate. I thought that was kind of an interesting deal. A little surprised that he came out and made comments that was why he was sitting on the bench, especially for a guy who's sort of notorious as one of the hardest workers, hardest trainers in the Premier League. So, yeah.
I think it was a good move to bench Ivanovic and Eden Hazard, who before the game were the 2 outfield players on the longest current run of starts in the Premier League, with Ivanovic on 63 and Hazard on 47 starts. So I think, Ryan, the fact that they were dropped, I think it made a statement, and obviously Chelsea got the victory, which Mourinho can hold up against anyone who questions what he did.
Well, yeah, but I think they're always going to beat a team like Villa. They're not on the best form, but I think good decision by Mourinho to drop them both. It shows that as good as Hazard is, Ivanovic hasn't had a good season so far, that he's willing to drop players if they're not playing to his standard and what he wants. And I think he's told him to go work on his defensive ability, like he did with Mata. We know he likes players that will track back and defend, and if he's not doing that, then deservedly dropped.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, Hazard has not been in good form this year. It's not just defensively. I'd be asking him to go and work on his offensive game as well, because he's not looked the same player. So I think Mourinho dropping him, it was needed, because if it was anybody else, I think they would have been dropped because the performance just wasn't there. So I don't think there can be any argument about him being dropped. But we'll move on. Crystal Palace 1, West Ham 3. West Ham move up into third place with the victory over 10-man Crystal Palace. The red card for Dwight Gale, 2 yellow cards. It was a bit harsh, but then it was late, so you can accept it was a yellow, 2 yellows, but then you almost kind of think, you know what, just give him a break. I don't know, Colin, I mean, when you see strikers get sent off for that kind of thing, you need to almost remind yourself it is a contact sport. It's going to happen from time to time. You can't just send them off all the time.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I saw the replays of that. I'm not necessarily sure how I felt on that one. I mean, it clearly changed the tone of the game. I think it clearly tipped things over, and really threw this one in favor of West Ham. I'm amazed. I think they're playing out of their minds this year. So nothing to take. I don't want to take away credit from them for what has been an outstanding season for them so far. I mean, they've played phenomenally on the road. They've taken it to some clubs that I'm not necessarily convinced that they had, at least on paper, a good argument to say they could beat. So yeah, I think the card changed a lot of the tone of the game, but I'm not necessarily sure or convinced that it would have changed the outcome. I think West Ham was better on the day, and got a fair result to them because of it.
I think what I'm going to do now to end off the review on this game is I'm going to read out some stats that Ryan's made a note of for me. And these are quality, Colin, so get yourself sat down ready for this. West Ham only managed 4 shots on target in the entire match, scoring 3 goals. Lanzini attempted 90 passes, completing 84 in the game. No West Ham players completed as many passes in a single Premier League game since November 2013. Noble completed 92 against Aston Villa on the 2nd of the 11th, 2013. And the next stat is Cabaye became only the 4th player in Premier League history to score a penalty in 4 successive appearances. The other 3 were Ian Wright, Ruud van Nistelrooy and Michael Owen. Now there's something for you to use in a quiz. Good job, Ryan.
Love some facts. Why not throw them in there?
Exactly. Well, Ryan, I think we'll go to you for the next game, which was Everton 0, Manchester United 3. Now, I don't think many people saw this coming, especially after United's display against Arsenal. Then you go out and do this to Everton.
Yeah, I think going into the game, I thought it's going to be tight. It's either going to be a draw or someone's just going to scrape a win out of it. But Everton very mistake bound in this game, it seems. Jagielka giving away a pass, so Rooney scoring his 3rd goal. A lot of mistakes and a lot of key players that just didn't turn up. Man United thoroughly in control for this game. I think the big turning point for me was Schweinsteiger. One of the commentators said the Everton midfield doesn't have the footballing brain of some of the Arsenal players, so he was able to play the football that he wants to play, sitting forward and then getting the ball forward himself. So yeah, good turnout, an unexpected result, but I'm not going to complain. 3-0 against Everton, didn't expect it. Martial seems to have faded away, but he had a good game. He's not scored, but I think he'll come to light eventually. Rooney scoring again for the first time at Everton since 2007. I think I've put it down. Oh no, I didn't. I didn't put that fact down. I should be disappointed. But I remember it though.
I think obviously the game a quick mention to Gareth Barry. He started his 550th Premier League game. Only David James has started more, 571. There's another quiz stat. But the game was overshadowed, and I do think it maybe affected Everton with the sad passing of Howard Kendall, who is a legendary Everton manager. So obviously our thoughts are with his family on that. It was some sad news to hear this week in the world of football. But we're going to move on from the Everton-Man United game to Manchester City 5, Bournemouth 1. Raheem Sterling scoring a hat-trick, showed some good composure. Without Sergio Aguero and David Silva, the team looked decent. They looked like they can step up. Wilfred Bonny scored and looked decent again. The match proved a learning curve for Bournemouth. I mean, there was a point, Colin, where Dan Gosling was moving forward on the left wing. I think he was surrounded by 3 Man City players, and that was the moment where I realised Bournemouth are going down. You look at the players, and yes, they have heart, and yes, they have passion, and yes, they can play some good football, but do they have the ability to perform week in, week out and get the points needed for the Premier League? I don't think so, and I do think this is the start of the end for Bournemouth.
It's hard to tell. I think this is a game that obviously I don't think anybody on the planet would have said, yeah, Bournemouth is going to go into the Etihad and be competitive, right? I don't think anybody would have labeled that. I do give Howe and Bournemouth credit. They play their game wherever they go. Will it bear out for them? I'm not sure. I think Bournemouth's survival depends less on their ability to play this year than how other teams play. I think if Watford stays as anemic in front of goal as they've been, and Sunderland stay sort of in the same funk they've been in, who knows? It could be a race between Aston Villa, Newcastle, and Bournemouth for that last spot on it, which would make things interesting. So I don't know if it's necessarily sold to them going down yet, but I do like that they're not that they're not set up to go and park a bus everywhere they go if it's going to be hard and try and hang on. I give them credit for that. I know you got to grind results at some point, but I my hat's off that they're willing to give their way a go.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to them for that. Well, we'll move on to the next game, which was Southampton 2, Leicester 2. And again, Leicester 2-0 down, and they showed that fighting spirit to come back. Premier League top scorer James Vardy scored twice. We're in the 19th of October now, and James Vardy is the top scorer in the Premier League. Not just out of all the English strikers, but the top scorer in his own right. It's just unbelievable. Leicester never stop playing, Ryan. They are always looking to get back into games, and they never admit defeat.
Well, yeah, it's the never say die attitude, and for a team like Leicester, who you don't expect to be up there in the Premier League, that's no offence to Leicester fans, you don't expect them to be up there in the top half. They've done really well this season, and I can see them finishing in the top half. Maybe not Europa League, Champions League, but definitely top half. If they can keep this run up, not losing, they'll be up there. Jamie Vardy may keep scoring 30 goals this season, quite possibly. It's going to be great to see.
I mean, I think Vardy deserves to be in the England team at the minute. His work rate, his quality, it's not just work rate. I've always said work rate doesn't win you games, but his quality with it, he's always very direct, and it's nice to see. He's not been stopped in that manner. A lot of players, you have the likes of Rooney, who, when he burst on the scene, he was constantly attacking. Vardy's a lot older, but still he's burst onto the scene. You're almost waiting for the managers to rein him back and say, oh, well, I want you to cut back, I want you to cut in and play the pass. But no, they're just letting him do what he does, and it's nice to see. The next game, Colin, is going to bore you to death. It was West Brom 1, Sunderland 0. Now, Sunderland's first game for Sam Allardyce, he's not going to be happy losing to West Brom. I mean, both teams were probably battling to who could get the least amount of possession in this game.
Yeah, I have to tell you that I skipped this one. This was one that wasn't going to make it to my that wasn't going to make it into my watching radar. I will admit that my interest in Sunderland has probably increased a little bit since DeAndre Yedlin moved over there. But yeah, these are two that there was no way this was going to be an exciting game. I don't care how you would have sliced it.
No. We're just going to move straight on. The next game was Watford 0, Arsenal 3. Now, Watford are impressing me to an extent this season, and I do think out of the teams around there at the bottom, they're one of the better. But they're lacking something, and I can't put my finger on it because Capu is impressing me. His work rate is nice to see, and again, he's got quality with it.
So here's an interesting stat for you that I heard that they talked about on the American broadcast. So going into the Newcastle game, Watford and Newcastle were tied with the fewest goals scored in the Premier League at 6.
Well, I mean, that was going to lead on to my next point. Now, I've gone on about it for a few weeks now, and I know Fox in the Box, who listens to the show, has said that Troy Deeney works really hard for the team. Then he needs to move into midfield because he is not a Premier League striker, and it's becoming very, very apparent. We're in the 19th of October now. It's not up for discussion anymore. He is not good enough. He's not scoring the goals. He had a couple of chances, and just shooting from the edge of the box straight at the keeper, it's just not good enough. And I don't know about yourself, Ryan, but something needs to change because I would love to see Watford stay up. The passion of the supporters at the ground and the atmosphere, it's fantastic. And I think they're a club who could do well if they can manage to stay in the Premier League. But they're just lacking that cutting edge at the minute.
Yeah, I think they just need that final third of the game to improve. If they can get the goals, they've got that one man. I can never pronounce his name, but they've got that one good goal scorer, Troy Deeney, who's sort of dropped off and gone to nowhere and doesn't seem to be scoring at the moment. If they can improve that, then we may see them stop up. But
Troy Deeney's a fantastic Championship striker.
He struggled in the Premier League.
Well, Shola Amiobi did well in the Championship, so say no more. But what I would say is you can't judge Watford on this game because Arsenal played really well. Arsenal's movement, they tore Watford's defence apart, not in terms of passing, but just in terms of movement. Aaron Ramsey was dropping, and every time he dropped, the defence couldn't pick him up. When some of the other players, they were moving, the defence couldn't pick them up. That is the difference in quality. It's no disrespect to Watford, it's just Arsenal players knew how to find the gaps. These aren't the games which are going to cost Watford, but Watford need to start scoring to pick up points against the lesser teams. The next game, as Colin says, going into the game, Newcastle had 6 goals all season. Newcastle 6, Norwich 2. I hope Jay's listening because you're not singing anymore. Oh, this was beautiful. And I barraged Jay yesterday with abuse. He had more videos of me singing. Special shout out to the True Geordie. His video yesterday was fantastic. I think he had a little bit too much to drink when he produced the video. But I think so did the most of Newcastle at that point. Jorginho Wijnaldum scored himself 4 goals. Fourth one. I love it when the commentator says slight deflection.
The guy scores 4 goals. You got to get his name right. It's Wijnaldum.
It depends how you say it. One of the commentators yesterday said Wijnaldum.
Oh, I've never heard it like that.
It's Wijnaldum.
I'm going to say this now. You know you're screwed when there's an American correcting your pronunciation of stuff.
It's a tough guy. There's no way you would get it right anyway.
I'd love to know people's thoughts on the 4th goal. Because the 4th goal he scored, because the commentator said, I think it took a slight deflection. No, it took a massive deflection. But it was going on target, so it counts as his goal. Now, how do you know you're watching Newcastle play? Your team has scored 5 goals, and I was still sat there worrying they were going to get back into it. It was one of them games. It was so end-to-end, Colin. It was a great advert for the Premier League.
Yeah, this was a game of. I can tell you at 3-2, it was like, oh my God, tell me we're going to end up with like 5-5 by the time this was done. This was, I forget which one of the commentators on the U.S. broadcast said that this was not exactly a display in Premier League defense, but it certainly was a great advertisement for the league and the offensive power. It was wide open. It was back and forth. It was fast paced. It was nerve wracking. Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't settle down and say, "Oh God, I think this one's finally settled." Till it was till it was 5-2 or 6-2 in there, and it was like, "Holy crap!"
I mean, fair play to Norwich. It was a great game. Norwich they should have had a penalty. They hit the post. They were fantastic. It was a great game. Did we deserve to win by 6-2? I don't think so. Did Norwich deserve to lose by 4 clear goals? No, they did not. But it happened. It's just the way it goes, and it was an awesome game. It really was. Jorginho was the 7th Dutchman to score a Premier League hat-trick after Dennis Bergkamp, Mark Overmars, Jimmy Floyd-Hasbank, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Robin van Persie, and Dirk Kuyt. What were you going to say, Colin?
I was going to say, I think if I'm a Norwich City supporter, given a defensive record like they've opened up the season with here, I'd start to get nervous as this season wears on. Right, this is the point of the year where you should be at your best. Right, if you're a club like Norwich City, you don't have a lot of internationals away for you. You know, you're able to spend more time sort of resting and training and keeping it together. This is the part of the year going through November where you should be at your strongest before the December and the winter grind really hits. And at this point, I'd say that these guys couldn't stop. They're just not stopping anything going into the net. So I'd be concerned that this is a real bad sign for things for Norwich.
Fingers crossed they can stay up. I'm just going to pick out a couple of results from the Football League. Main reason for that is, first off, managerial change. Leeds lost to Brighton at home 2-1, and there's been a change there now, Ryan. New managers come in to Leeds with Uwe Rosler leaving.
Yeah, strange equipment.
Is it Steve Evans? I think it's Steve.
Steve Evans, yeah.
Former Rotherham manager. He did take Rotherham up a couple of divisions and stabilise them a little bit. They were more than likely going to go down this year, I think. What I would say is in 2013, he abused the living daylights out of Leeds. So I assume the chairman hasn't seen that.
He's too busy not paying taxes, apparently, on his cars to see that.
Oh... Just a disclaimer, that's Colin's comments, not ours. Another result I want to pick out is Fleetwood 4, Burton Albion 0. That is a massive shock because Burton are flying high in League One, so quite a shock to see that one. But Colin, do you want to just run us down the Bundesliga scores, please, sir?
Absolutely. So we have FC Cologne 0, Hannover 1. Big result for Stuttgart here. Stuttgart 1, Ingolstadt 0. Borussia Dortmund got back to their winning ways in the Klopp derby against Mainz with a 2-0 win. Bayern Munich becoming the first Bundesliga club to win their opening 9 league games with a 1-0 win over Werder Bremen. Excellent Thomas Muller goal, by the way, if you haven't seen the highlights. Augsburg 0, Darmstadt 2, Schalke 2, Hertha Berlin 1, Hamburg 0, Bayer Leverkusen 0, Wolfsburg 4, Hoffenheim 2, and Mönchengladbach starting to wake up with a 5-1 win on the road at Eintracht Frankfurt.
Fantastic victory for them there. I will do the French League 1 for people just because I am dreadful at doing it and it's quite amusing. We have Monaco 1, Lyon 1, Bastia 0, PSG 2, Guingamp 1, Leo 1, Nantes 3, Troyes 0, Reims 0, Cannes 1, Saint-Étienne 2, Ajaccio 0, Toulouse 1, Angers 2, see that Colin accent there, Marseille 1, Lorient 1, Bordeaux 0, Montpellier 0, Rennes 1, Nice 4. Ryan, I'm going to make you do La Liga just because we're having a little rotation session this evening.
Might be a bit better than you. So we have Villarreal 1, Celta Vigo 2, Real Sociedad 0, Atletico Madrid 2, Getafe 4, Las Palmas 0, Deportivo La Coruña 2, Atletico Bilbao 2, Real Madrid 3, Levante 0, Barcelona 5, Real Vallecano 2, Eibar 1, Sevilla 1, Valencia 3, Malaga 1, and finally Real Betis 1, Espanyol 3.
So I have an interesting question from Spain to pose to you guys. So, do you think if...
Is the league crap? Yes.
No. So, do you think, given Real Sociedad struggles here in the league opening the season and Aston Villa's troubles winning, do you see a potential for a mid-season move for Moyes from Real Sociedad back to the Premier League at Aston Villa?
I can see it, but I don't think it's the right move for Aston Villa, not for Moyes. I don't think he's the right fit. I think he'll need time to settle, which he got at Everton, and Villa just don't have that time. So I just can't see that happening. I don't know about yourself, Ryan.
I don't know. Some of my course mates at university said that Brendan Rodgers could go to Aston Villa. I couldn't see it, but
no,
it'd be interesting to see him there.
I think I don't think Villa have the money to attract one of them in as well. We'll find out, won't we? I'm going to run down the MLS before Colin gives his say on a couple of things. The New England Revolution 0, Montreal Impact 1, Real Salt Lake 0, FC Dallas 1, DC United 4, Chicago Fire 0, New York Red Bulls 4, Philadelphia Union 1, Houston Dynamos 1, Seattle Sounders 1, Orlando City 2, New York City 1, San Jose Earthquakes 1, Sporting Kansas City 0, Toronto 0, Columbus Crew 2. Then you have Toronto 2, New York Red Bulls 1, boo. FC Dallas 2, Vancouver 0, boo. Real Salt Lake 0, Portland Timbers 1. Now, Colin, there are people posting on Twitter that they want FC Dallas to win and New York Red Bulls to lose, so Dallas can win the Supporters' Shield. Now, we do not agree with that, do we, sir?
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. It would be dynamite for... No. So I can sort of understand a little bit, given that Dallas doesn't have a a great history. But I think the Red Bulls are a team that definitely deserve it. For a squad that was supposed to finish near dead bottom in the East, be rebuilding and be terrible this year, the squad has been fantastic, including opening up with the fastest goal in MLS history at the weekend against Philadelphia with a 7-second goal from Mike Grella. The squad is clicking at the right time, absolutely at the right time.
I think it's fantastic. I mean, obviously having you on the show, a season ticket holder at the Red Bulls, we get to understand the passion because throughout the season you've kind of gone from starting off going, wow, we actually picked up a victory, to literally coming on and going, do you know, we can actually do this.
Yeah, and it was Sunday was the last home game of the regular season, and there's a huge buzz at the stadium that. The team was out there, and Jesse Marsh was talking, and he said, we've come this far, so we won we're the best team in the Eastern Conference. That's sewn up, and with that comes a Champions League berth for us in the 2016-2017 cycle of the CONCACAF Champions League, which is fantastic for the team. So that's a great opportunity to perform well against. Largely Liga MX sides, but it's a great opportunity to really improve the squad. But you can tell there's a huge excitement that, all we need to do is, the destiny is totally in our hands. We need to win at Toyota Park against the Chicago Fire next weekend, and the Supporter Shield is ours. And then that's when we start. It's the march to the playoffs, into the MLS Cup, and the team seems fired up and ready to go.
Can I just say what is fantastic? People who are listening on YouTube, people who are listening on iTunes and SoundCloud, we do the show live on Twitch at twitch.tv/footballmanagercentral, and I have just said that I saw people this week tweeting that they wanted FC Dallas to win the Supporters' Shield, and the person who tweeted that was FM Holland, and he has just appeared live in the stream listening, which we really do appreciate. And this is why it is fantastic doing Beyond the Touchline, because as we are talking about Colin being a season ticket holder at the Red Bulls, as we talked about Colin's passion, and you could hear it in his voice when you said there, Colin, you in the Champions League next year. He's come on, he's just in there, congratulations on the win against us this weekend. To be fair, you deserve the shield. So it's fantastic that he's obviously, they acknowledge that Red Bulls have done fantastic this year, Colin, and it is seriously, it's, as the year's gone on, the change in just like, can it happen, to, oh my god, it's actually happening, has been fantastic.
Yeah, this has been great. And if people haven't watched much of MLS or haven't seen a lot this year, next Sunday is a fantastic day to watch. So very much like the Premier League starts the last day of the season where everybody starts at the same time. Next Sunday is what they call Decision Day in MLS. So all the Eastern Conference games start at 5, Eastern time in the U.S. So what is that, 11 p.m. UK time? Yeah. And then 2 hours later at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so 1 a.m., is when all the Western Conference games start, and everything will be settled next week. And there are some fantastic matches with plenty on the line. Orlando City is still alive for a playoff spot. They in New England are fighting for the last playoff spot in the East. Everything from 2 down is still up in the air in the West with the LA Galaxy's. That's a score we forgot. The Portland Timbers won last night at StubHub Center, 5-2 over the LA Galaxy. It was a fantastic game. I recommend watch the highlights. So Portland, big for them and a great game. So it's going to be very difficult for FC Dallas. They have to take on the San Jose Earthquakes, who are fighting for for the last playoff spot in the West. So there's a lot on the line next weekend. So it should be some fantastic games.
I think it's definitely something to look forward to then on next Monday night show. Normally I'm a couple of days behind. I normally watch on MLSsoccer.com, and normally my plan is on a Tuesday. I kind of catch up on all the weekend's action, so I will definitely be checking out that game as well as all the other games in preparation for next Sunday, which I will watch live because, well, you have to do it, don't you, Colin?
Absolutely.
But that's it for tonight's show. I want to thank everyone who's listened live. I want to thank people who listen back on SoundCloud and iTunes. I want to remind people to check out footballmanagercentral.com. Winter is coming, so go and check out our online store. Grab yourself a nice hoodie. And remember, we're back on Thursday night for the weekly Football Manager show. So from myself, Paul, from Colin and from Ryan, we want to thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.